Jessica Pelkey here, PAC Mentor, and I've divided this webinar, Connecting with Various Gem States, into 3 different sections for you. So the first one, we're going to take a look at what we need to know about connecting with different gem states. In the second chapter, we are going to see multiple role plays of different gem states and getting connected. And then the last chapter, other things that we may be interested to know. So let's go ahead and get started, getting connected with the different gems.
And today's focus is how do we make those positive personal connections after we've done our PPA so that the person and we form a connection that's tight enough to get them to want to move forward with us, either in conversation or in action. Because frequently we want people to do things. We want to do things with people. We're trying to get tasks accomplished. And in our world, it's relationship first, task second. You can have an agenda, but you don't show your agenda. And what that really means is, even though I've done a PPA, that just physically connects us. It connects us through our senses. Then comes the next piece, which is figuring out how to get the person to want to be with me to such an extent that they are willing to engage in something they weren't previously engaging in, whether it's conversation, whether it's observation, or whether it's actually doing something. So in order to do that, once again, we're going to be assessing as we go. So we're going to be offering some things out there, and we have a set, we'll do sets of 5 to help us make sure that we're on target with what we think we're seeing and hearing and experiencing. And we're taking what they're doing and giving ourselves feedback so that we can go, okay, she got this, she didn't get this. I did this, she did that, which means gem state wise, this works the best if you're sapphire. In other words, you're really flexible and you've got your agenda and you've got a way of you think you're going to approach, but being willing. And one of the things I've started saying lately that I haven't said before is when you're sort of assessing this human being, go ahead and put one hand up, everybody, so you get into the idea that you're going to be doing things today. The person with dementia, his brain is constantly doing things. Even though it's looking at you, it's also possibly processing things internally as well as externally. My job coming in, as they're doing that, is to figure out how to get like enough that they're comfortable with me moving into intimate space, having verbal interaction, whatever that might look like and sound like, vocalizations, and then physically moving forward. And to do that, I've got to mirror them. And so a lot of this is trying to scope out what's going on and can I get them to do what they're doing and then to gradually come along, copy it, and then gradually shift it so they're now doing what I'm doing. And so we start the dance the way they're dancing. We sort of figure out their potential to switch gears, and then we lead them forward given what we figured out. And this in-between thing is where you're physically connected, but you haven't moved a task yet. And that means you're transitioning. You're going from one to the other, and it may be they're very active and you're trying to help them not be active, or it could be they're very still and you're trying to get them active. And that active could be visually active, verbally active, or physically active. Little muscles or big muscles. It could also be being very active and trying to help them let go of that. So for instance, visually very active could be somebody with Lewy body who's having very active hallucinations, and the hallucinations are disturbing and distressing. They're seeing things that other people aren't seeing, and they may or may not be telling you about them, but what you want to do is try to get them to let go of that seeing and pay attention to a seeing that's going to bring them back into a place in a space that's less scary and more comfortable. And to do that, you've got to make these personal connections. And then we're calling them positive action starters. How do you get things started after you've got the connection? Because you can make mistakes in either place, and when you make mistakes, you lose people. So our five steps are 5 options, and I'm just going to call them 5 options. There'll be 5 options for personal connections, and then there'll be 5 options for starting action. And we're going to focus in first on the gems again, because if you don't know who you're working with and you haven't figured them out, this isn't going to work very well. And this will be a quick repeat. But we've got sapphires who are fine. They may be a little slower than a younger person, but I'm still fine. I can be very flexible and we can change things up. You don't need a tight connection that's as tight. You don't need to be as careful, but still, you can't assume a sapphire state in another human being without paying attention when you're moving in to make sure, are they with you? Is there something else on their plate? Do they have an agenda? We're always checking that other agenda first before we try to introduce our agenda. And the personal connectors and then the positive starters, that's how you do that. And it doesn't really sound odd, it sounds normal, but it's not task focused first. So I still can't say to Corey, tell me, how do I sign in? I would start with, hey, Corey, I know we're running the webinar this morning, and I appreciate you doing that. Are you in a place where you can help me with this? Now, the connection was very brief. It was Corey, her name. I could see she recognized me. And are you in a good place? I asked her a simple question, simple information. I gave her the data. We're going to be doing the webinar. Are you in a good place? Not, I need you to. I want you to. I'd like you to, which is an I statement of my state. And instead, I'm sort of checking on Corey's state. So sapphires, the main thing to remember is don't jump to the task just because you don't have somebody who's living with dementia in front of you. Relationships are relationships, and they're really important in all the work that we do in PAC. Diamonds. Diamonds are folks who are struggling a little bit more. They can be a little rigid, a little inflexible because they're either stressed or because they're having trouble holding on to new data, and new things are a little stressful and familiar things are more comfortable. So with those folks, it really is important that we do that connection and make sure that we're paying attention. And our biggest error frequently in this area is that we think we can go to intimate activities without making a personal connection, making sure they're comfortable with the personal, and knowing who they are and how they like to have things when we're trying to seek the ability to do a task, like an intimate task, like brush teeth, shower, comb hair, get ready to go somewhere, do something like let me do blood sugars, whatever it is. We start making assumptions about people's non-compliance versus they don't think they owe us that level of intimacy. So making those personal connections with those folks in a way that make them feel respected and honored, and that they're in control if they like control, that they're connected if they like connected, so that we can go somewhere better. And with emeralds, now things are getting different, because emeralds are people who get lost in their life and get lost in time, and they have a hard time seeing the big picture. And whatever task they might be working on, they might have real trouble switching from task to social to task to task to task. And so it's really essential for us at that point, when we're coming into the situation, when we do our PPA and we've established that they're connected to us, that they're not just physically connected to us, but they get the idea of where we're going and what's happening. But first, they have to want to be with us. If they don't want to be with us, or if we haven't fully connected with them, they tend to go back to wherever they were before we got there, or they see something else that distracts them and they're off to do that. Or what we're doing starts to be too much, too fast, too soon, and they pull back and try to get away or disregard us. So making those connections there really sets the tone for how well we're going to succeed at getting things done. And ambers, in the moment. So it's critical with our approach and our positive connections that we're tuned in to how are they reacting to what we're offering. How does that feel to them? How does that look? How does it sound? Is it a positive? Or which amygdala are we in? Are we in that right amygdala where they're liking it? Or are we moving over to the left where they're starting to feel a little bit threatened and it's not good and they don't want it and they don't like it? And if we're not tuned into the connection that we have, what we do is we end up with a connection that's a threat connection and not a pleasure connection. But we also have to be careful that we don't take pleasure too high, because then we get uncomfortable with what they're liking and wanting to do, because it often involves touching. Now, rubies, for those folks, we really want to think hard about the connection. And what's really important, take your hands like this with rubies. Put your hands like this. Here's what I'm going to tell you with rubies. If you're going to spend this much time with them, this much time is spent on the connection. And that's where we really make the mistake. We think we can transition them quickly from where they are and what they're doing to what we want. And because rubies are having so much trouble getting data in, and their access to data is so limited, if we aren't careful and we try to move too quickly in any one direction, we lose them. And once they plant their feet, or once they go, no, 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 then what we have to do is step back and start over. So the idea of slowing transitions down and taking more time in transition, and that means spending more time in positive connection, and then task initiation. How do you get started? Makes all the difference in the world about how quickly you get something done, because you will not get it done quickly. It will end up being resistance, reapproach, throw your hands up. And that's not helpful. And finally, with pearls, as we're doing what we're doing, realizing that if you're in the shell and you're not even looking outward, taking the time to make sure the shell gently opens rather than trying to pry it open will make a significant difference in whether or not the rest of the interaction is one of distress or one of openness and willingness and engagement, whether or not there is eye contact, whether there is a vocalization that is positive. So that's the core. Now, quick reminders, take your hands, sapphire young, sapphire old, diamond, emerald, amber, ruby, pearl. So with vision, we have minus about 45 with your sapphire, older, tunnel vision with diamonds in general. Emeralds have the monocular, and what that means is social vision or task vision, but not both at the same time. And to switch gears will be a transition. So if I'm looking up and out and you want me to look down, we have to transition it. If I'm looking down and you want me to look up, we have to transition it. And we can use gestures, we can use cues, but we have to realize we're noticing things they're not noticing. So I've got to make sure I've got them on my page when we're trying to go from interacting to going and doing something. Ambers, they're doing this, but what they lose is object to use. So they look at an object and they're exploring the object as though it was a brand new thing. So I run into this and I am I'm fascinated by this, but this kind of thing could actually so engage me that I simply cannot do anything that you're talking about, because what's the strongest for me is my eyes and my hands exploring this thing right here in this range. So even though I'm holding it up, I'm a full out task vision person, and I don't know what the big task is. I'm just caught in that moment. So how you engage me, you got to pay attention to what I'm paying attention to, so you're going to be successful. The rubies with the monocular, big deal there is depth perception, distance, and the ability to take what's happening and realize they're going to tend to track to one side more than the other. And to get them to look or pay attention to the other side is going to be more of a challenge. So we really want to be thinking, let's see what they're paying attention to. What's their guide? What's their eye being drawn to? So that I can position myself not to block it, but to be within it. So they run across me, they come into me. And that for people who like to be in control, I'm not getting too fast or too soon, But for folks who are liking connection, I'm ready for them because they may come in a little faster than I anticipate because I'm the thing they're interested in. And for pearls, the vision is critical in noticing, are the eyes open, are the eyes closed? But in addition to that, are the eyes focused? Or even though my eyes are open, I'm not actually focused externally, I'm focused internally. And even though we got the PPA, it doesn't mean the person stays with us. So noticing, are you there, are you not there? And not increasing volume, but changing frequency, intensity, or rhythm can be the key there. Receptive language. And mostly I'm just going to have you look at this later, but I did want to focus on a couple of things because we are talking about positive connections. Typically we like to use language, but I'm just going to prompt you with sapphires. The more high-pitched your voice is, the harder it is for them to process you. The more crowded the space, the louder the space, the more busy the space. Even sapphires, you and I on a good day can find it difficult to sustain a personal connection or even make one when there's so much background stuff going on. Diamonds are more challenged because it takes a little longer to process language. They're often missing consonants. They may be missing single word definition, and so they get sort of turned around in a sentence and they're trying to think it through and they're busy thinking, and then we try to deliver more, and that's not connecting, that's distracting. Emeralds, they're missing sometimes 1 out of 4 words, and they need more pauses and better rhythm in your speech. Ambers, often missing 2 out of 4 words. They're missing a whole lot of content. They're catching some key words, but it's often out of context. And they're really more paying attention to how it feels and how it sounds and how it looks versus the meaning of those words. And they may or may not be picking up on most of what you're saying. Social chit chat for rubies and music for rubies and rhythm for rubies and tone of voice for rubies are the things that are going to connect you. Picking up on what they like and what they're wanting, what they're doing, and then mimicking that or copying it. And then for pearls, classically, they pick up on familiar sounds in voices, friendly sounds in voices, increased energy in a voice or decreased energy in a voice. But the details of what is being said may or may not be getting in. It's really interesting, though, how they can have moments of absolute clarity and then moments where nothing works. So being tuned into coming and going when you're trying to make connections is really critical. And then the last piece is recognizing, and we're going to pause on this and then move into the connections. Sapphires, language, expression. So how do I speak? How do I talk? The sapphires have the best skills. Diamonds, pretty good with some misspeaking. Emeralds have trouble with the thing that but social they can get to, but there's about 4 back and forths, and then you often start repeating because holding on to a whole conversation can be a bit of a challenge. Typically with emeralds, the more stress they get, the less they can express effectively. Ambers, you will get something that's often called echolalia or echo. Come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here. The important thing is if you're hearing an echo, realize they're not listening to what you're saying in between, they're echoing. And then you also want to watch if the volume's going up, the intensity's going up, match and then drop a little bit to see if you can bring it down or bring the energy up if it's a little low. With rubies, less articulation, more babble, hum, sing, vocalizations that are rhythmic. But every now and then a word will be there that's an important word and a value word. Listen for it, repeat it back, articulate it a little bit more and see if you're right. And with pearls, sometimes they can hear a whole sentence and automatically respond, and then sometimes they don't seem to even pick up on single words or sounds because it's so variable in the shell. It all depends on what else is going on in there. So now what Abby and I are going to do is do a few role plays with you. And so I'm going to go ahead and just go through the different gems with some of the different skill sets, and we'll lay those out, and we'll just work on the first part, which is positive personal connections. So I've given you some more things here. I'm going to also lay out some things that might be important to know about me. if you're going to try to do this. And the more you can learn about me over time, the easier this gets. So preferred name, preferred site of interaction, past places of interest, past people of interest, current awareness of place, current awareness of people, past work roles, hobbies, leisure preferences, music preferences and past, family relationships, food, drink preferences, faith-based, spiritual preferences, daily schedules and routines. Am I more of a doer, a talker, or a watcher? Am I more of a leader or a follower? Am I more of an introvert or an extrovert? And what suits me and what's a hot button for me? So if you can figure some of those things out and start jotting them down, keeping track of them, if you're having a bad day or you're really struggling sometimes, it can help you renew that, check it out before you start your interaction so your brain is tuned in and prepped for what's my typical, and then be prepared for it not happening. So the first skill is what we're going to do is get personally connected. And there's 5 ways to get personally connected. So take your hand out. We're going to do a quick review on them. 5 ways. The first, I'm me, you're you. So one of the things you can say is, hey there, it's Teepa. And that's just giving information. So that was a one way. I could say, hey Abby, it's Teepa. I said, I know who you are. Your name is Abby. I'm Teepa. What I didn't say is, hey Abby, it's Teepa, your mother. You don't give the relationship until you know for sure they know the relationship. Don't say I'm your nurse. Don't say I'm your caregiver. Just say I'm Teepa and see where that takes you. A little is better than too much. Now, the other way you can do it, do this. Hey, I'm Teepa and you are, it's called fill in the blank. It allows the other person to have an example of what you want before you give them what you're going to give them. So it's, hey, I'm Teepa and you're?
Abby.
Abby. Nice to meet you, Abby. Yeah. Okay, so there we go. Now, that can be as quick as you need to go because she's alert, she's aware, she's ready to roll, or you may need more. The second one, take your index finger, this is your second one, and do like the little dimple. Aww. This is to remind you what you're looking for is to give them a compliment. Say something nice about them. Now, you want to have a handle. It works best if you pick a compliment they care about. So for me, for instance, don't bother telling me I'm pretty because that's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, pretty gave, I know you're lying. It's just not something I value. If you said, ooh, Teepa, listen, you are so smart about things. I like being smart. So if you say something nice like that, then I like you better. You might say, ooh, Teepa, just who I was looking for. You're the one with the muscles. Now already then we're set up. You have an idea of what our relationship is going to be, but it was a compliment. I said something nice. Wow, look at your hair. It looks fantastic. And again, my enthusiasm level has to match what you're looking and sounding like, which hopefully I've picked up a little bit in PPA. Now do this third finger. Now this one, we don't want to put up by itself. This is where I say something and then I ask you something, but I give first before I seek. So this is a share. So do this, and the share is I offer and I seek back, but it's a back and forth. So I might say, I'm from North Carolina and you're from, I have 2 kids and you have, I am a teacher and you, so I always give something about me. In other words, I'm not asking you for something I wouldn't share. I'm not going to be intrusive. I'm not trying to dig into your business. But what I do want to do is become more related to you. And so we may be different, we may be the same, but it's a chance for us to share back and forth. And we're going to do it first with language. And then as we progress to the gems, I'll show you what it looks like when you don't have language anymore. You can still do it. Now the next one, do this one. This one's a little more difficult. This one's a little awkward, but do this. You quit focusing on the person and you notice something around that is related. Ooh, Now, here's the thing about noticing things. If you notice something on the person, if you notice something around the person, do this. No touching. You don't touch their stuff, you notice their stuff. If it's earrings on them, because of the visual shifts, realize what you're going to do is notice and point to your earrings and then point to them. If it's something in the room, you're going to use a gesture. Oh, wow, I love that picture. That is gorgeous. Now, is that something you did? And what I've already done is move to the next one, because if I get connected to you, then I can shift on to getting things started. Check. And just realize as we're going through this, these things should take, with a sapphire, a diamond, even an emerald, these might take anywhere from 3 to 10 seconds. These are not long-term investments, but it's a huge investment in relationship. Now, when we're talking sometimes emeralds, ambers, rubies, we are talking more time, because you can't use your words, and you've got to make sure they're getting your message, and you got to make sure you're getting their message. So we did this one, positive observation. And then finally, do this. This is the one you have to make sure you've done a few of these others before you go to this, because you've got to make sure they're able to do this. So tell me something, Abby. It looks like you're not real comfy. Are you thirsty by any chance? This is where I can be seeking out what's going on with a person. Is it an immediate thing going on, or is it a bigger thing? Good day? No, huh? I want to find something out, but if I want to find something out, I better be prepared for the no. So you want to be thoughtful about when you're trying to find things out. So where one of our big mistakes is, are you ready to, do you want to? Try to mark those off as things not to do. Because if you do them, what you'll get is, well, not right now, maybe later. And it's like, oh, that's where you lost them, because you gave them a choice and you missed that they were a leader and they like to be in control, or they're not sure what's going on and they're going to refuse. And that's where we get frustrated.
Jess again. Hey, Teepa's given us some really cool information, some really valuable information about getting connected with each of the gems, and our 5 ways that we recommend getting connected. So go ahead and get your hand out. So the first way is to greet with names. Greet with names, standard, each time. Second one, do this, compliment. Indicate something of value that you think you might get connected on. And the third one, put it to your heart. I share, you share. Share. Fourth one, spin it. Notice something. Notice something in the environment that we might get connected on. And the last one, seek. Be curious about a possible unmet life, want, or need. So we've got greet with names, compliment, share, notice, be curious. Which will you try that you don't have built in as a habit to use it until it becomes a habit? In our next chapter, we're going to watch each of these be put into play in getting connected through role plays with various gems. Hey, it's Jess. So in this chapter, we are going to see a series of role plays. So maybe have some paper handy, but watch and assess what you notice for each role play. What do you notice about each gem? And what do you notice about getting connected for each gem?
So what we're going to do is go through these. I'm going to do them just in order. I'll approach Abby. She'll be each gem. We'll do them, and I'll just mess with them a little bit. And then what we'll do is I'll give you a quiz. So we'll try out some different ones and see if you can identify the gem level in which personal connection, positive personal connection I'm trying to make. Okay, you ready? Abby. Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How
Good.
are you doing?
Good. Oh, I like your necklace. Nice. Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I went, that was one, and that was as a sapphire. I'm moving pretty quick. I came right in, did a quick handshake. I might even just say, hey, and not do the hand contact, but I got up pretty close and I sat down right here. So I need to make sure she's okay with that. Check. Everybody got that one? Straightforward. Abby. Hey.
Hey,
Morning.
good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm all right.
Yeah. Not so much.
Not been a good day.
Not a good day.
Nope.
Okay. Wow. That's not good. You
That
don't
lady
look like
is
you're
mean.
feeling good.
That lady is mean.
The lady was mean.
So mean. Doesn't care about me.
Oh gosh, that's not good. May I?
Yeah.
Yeah. So something's not going on. Now notice, in that one, Abby has language, but Abby also has something going on. So something's not good. And what did you notice I did to start with, which was a little bit different? I didn't do it with the sapphire. I asked permission because she wasn't looking up, she wasn't looking out. I can't make an assumption that her visual field included me, her auditory process included me. So part of my PPA was checking it out because I don't want to startle her. But then Abby, hey, she gave me eye contact and I got some visual recognition in there. I opted not to do the name. What did I do? I actually made an observation. And my observation was she was not looking comfortable and she didn't look like she wanted me to come closer. So for part of the interaction, you couldn't see me. And that's because I stayed further back until she started verbally interacting with me, where you saw what I really did with that diamond. Because it was a diamond a little in distress, I found out about what was going on with her.
Can you pause before you go to the next one?
Yes.
Can you make yourselves whole screen and take down the share screen so that people can see a little bit
Thank
better?
you. That's a great idea. Thanks, Amanda. All right, so our next one is going to be doing the emerald. So Abby will be an emerald, and I'm going to do the approach, quick approach, and then a connect. You can't get to Abby. Hey, 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 stop. You're trying to get your thing. Yeah, oh, is it?
Yeah.
It's a pretty color. I like the color. You're welcome. Ooh, those are nice.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
something's just not
this
quite.
is pension.
Okay, tell you what. Come with me and we'll see what we can figure out.
Okay.
Okay. Now, with that emerald, what did you notice? Talk to somebody next to you for just a second or think for yourself. What did you notice about my approach and my positive connection? What happened there? And then somebody go ahead and give us some information, what you're thinking. Anybody want to offer something up?
You noticed first what she was doing, and then you made a connection using a compliment.
Okay, so I'll pick on somebody. Hey, Kathy Turkey. So what did I notice? And then how did I use that?
I think what you did is you noticed that she was struggling with her top, so you knew that she was trying to attempt to do something. So what you did was you invited yourself, well, she invited you in, she said yes, you sat down, but what you did was you pointed to your ear.
Okay, hang on, I'm gonna pause you because you got ahead of what I did.
Okay.
When she was doing the thing with her shirt, we've got an echo. Unmute, see. Okay. No? Are
Kathy
you guys?
may have to mute. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yep, that was it. Okay, so I'll show you again so we don't miss anything, because this is the critical piece we don't want to miss with emeralds, and this is where we all too often do miss something with emeralds. So watch carefully and notice the visual field shift. It's the visual field shift and then my gesture to something before we get to the substitution of the earrings. So let's see what we do there. Abby. Hey. Hey.
Something with your, it's
a pretty color. Yeah. Oh. Okay, so what'd you notice? What'd you notice that time that was so fast you missed it?
good hand in your hand.
I did hand in her hand. So when I got her visual regard, I offered my hand out in that space. And what I did is I got down approximately at the very edge. I didn't move on in because she was really task focused. And I did Abby a second time, but I didn't sound like I was upset. But what I did is showed her my hand and showed her my face from far enough out. And yet I got her attention to get the rest of my PPA.
Viola says you didn't adjust the clothing for her either.
Absolutely not. Yes, don't touch her, don't touch her. So there was no touching her, but what I did do is notice her shirt. But what did I do with the shirt versus what she had been doing with the shirt? Did I acknowledge there was something about the shirt that wasn't right? But what did I then do? I talked about the color. Yeah, so I complimented the color, and for a second her brain went, oh yeah, it is a nice color. I like the color. And then I was able to do the transition. And the thing that started that was I touched my shirt while I was pumping her hand. I was giving her the hand pump to draw her eye, got her to look at mine and then recognize hers. And so what I was doing was substitute, substitute, substitute. So rather than have something that escalated quickly or she starts taking her shirt off in the lobby, what I was able to do is make the connection, switch the focus, and now I could get her to probably work with me taking the shirt off with a lot less distress. So it's that positive connection, making sure I've got a solid connection before I try to go anywhere with her. And she is now with me, not involved in that shirt like it's the primary thing. I'm the primary, shirt is secondary. And with emeralds, we got to get to that place if we want to be successful in task or in conversation. All right, so let's go to the next one. And the next one we're going to take a peek at is amber. It's 45 minutes, just in case you're curious. Hey there. Oh, yeah, huh? Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Look at that. Ooh, look, here. Let's see. We get to, oh, cool. Wow. Yeah. Hey, hey. That's sneaky. So I'm hoping we had that focused enough that you could see. I'm sorry, I just realized it probably was a little bit low. What do you think happened there? Rachel, you want to give us your impression of what's going on with this one?
Well, I think that you started out with what she was doing, and then you got interested with her, and then you ended up doing it instead of her. Next thing you know, you had her hand.
Yeah. So even Abby got tricked, and Abby, and she has enough skill to realize she got tricked. But when you're in amber, you don't have that ability to look at the whole situation and go, she just tricked me. And instead, it's just like, oh, we're in a new place. What a new interesting thing. Look, it's a person now that I'm interacting with. And it was a real smooth transition. But the critical piece was I had to pay attention to what she was physically doing. And what I actually did was mimic her physical motions so that she saw that I saw. And then she started looking up at me rather than looking at herself because I was close enough yet far enough. And so what did I share there? I shared something. I shared emotion. I didn't do any verbal at all. I just shared emotion. And then I shared an object. And then I slipped that out and then I shared me. So that's where it gets tricky because people want to do what they're comfortable with, and ambers are going to make you fairly uncomfortable. But what we keep forgetting is we make them terribly uncomfortable because we try to do things that make no sense and we don't work our way up to it or into it. We just try to get things done rather than make sure there's a strong connection and they get where we're going and they can give us feedback prior to a meltdown that what we're trying to do isn't working for them. And we don't listen when they try to give us that feedback. And then when they do start trying to give us verbal feedback, we resist that because we don't like how they're talking or yelling or striking out because they don't know how else to get us to stop because we don't seem to be paying attention. So let's go now to our Ruby state.
Knock, knock. Hey. Ooh. Oh. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Abby. Yeah. Teepa. Yeah. Hi. It's us. Yeah.
Okay. So what do we got going on that one? Let's see. Hey, Pam, what do you want to tell us about that one? What you thinking? Uh-oh, you're muted, Pam. We can't hear you. There you go. You'll do it.
I think when you first looked at her, you assessed what she was doing, and that she was totally engrossed in what she was doing in her lap. You brought yourself to the ground so that she would have you in her visual field. You put your hand out and talked to her softly to get her attention. Once she acknowledged that you were there, you used your hand in her hand. You put your hand on.
Okay, so pause. I'm going to pause you there for a second. And you went immediately to hand under hand. Did I go immediately to hand under hand?
No, you put your hand out first to see she would acknowledge you. And then he put her hand out and you accepted her hand. And then as you began to move towards her, you put your hand on top of her hand to give her reassurance, I believe. Okay, so pause, because what you can't tell is that she actually indicated I was allowed to come in because she tugged me a little bit with her hand. Oh, okay, now I didn't see that.
Yeah, you couldn't see that. So what happened was, as I gave her my hand, she started to pull it toward her a little bit. So what does that mean if she's pulling my hand in? She's acknowledging you're there. She's acknowledging that she likes this thing that she has in her hand and she wants it closer. And I just came along for the ride. She mostly was still interested in my hand until she looked at my face. And what did I do with my face? Could you see? You may not have been able to because I had to be looking at her. I couldn't see. I'm assuming you were smiling at her because she smiled. I was copying her. Whatever she did with her face, I shared it back. So when she shared something, I shared back. Right. And then what happened after we did some of our connection there? There was one more connection. You put your hand on top of hers, and then you began to move slowly to her side as you were holding her hand and giving her comfort. And then you began to start, rubbing your chest and mirroring. I was rubbing. What was I rubbing? Your necklace and. So was that a fine motor or a fairly big hand movement? A big hand movement. Yeah, because why would I do a big hand movement with a Ruby? Because her fine motor skills are gone. Bingo. So if I want her to notice something, it has to be something she can notice with her whole hand. And would I want her to be messing with earrings at this point that somebody put in? Yeah, no. No. So it was, it was an active choice to go to something like a necklace or something on her chest. And then what happened? Because I then did draw her attention to something. Then you got her to interact with
prior she was totally engrossed in what she was doing on her lap and fidgeting and that type of thing, and you were trying to change that movement to get her engaged.
And then I said, Abby.
Yes, your name.
And I pointed and Abby, and I did it a couple times to establish the
connection,
the rhythm. And then I said, Teepa. And she said, Teepa. And I said, Teepa. Yes. Yeah. And then we're connected. And this is where, again, I'm going to emphasize with rubies, we want to slow this way down compared to what people want to do. Because if you really want a ruby then to do something with you, you've got to have them connected to you visually, verbally, and through touch. And it's got to be more than a light little, okay, I got your hand. If you actually want to do something like change a brief, go from stand to sit, try to get them to take a bite. Those kind of things are going to require a more intense connection. And it means she's got to really like me and recognize me as something that's pleasurable. And so that value in making that connection deeper and more intensely. So what I actually did is used about every one of those 5 connectors to get my ruby fully connected with me.
So Pam had asked before about social chit chat for a ruby. So does that show you, Pam, what that looks like as far as social chit chat for a ruby?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and at the end, we were sharing laughter. And so now if I were to want to have her do something, she definitely is in her right amygdala with me, but not in a wild, crazy way, but in a very positive, affirming way. So if I were to do a motion and it was a rhythmic motion, she might very well copy me, which means I can get her to stand up with relative ease versus stand up. Abby, 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 stand up. Come on, Abby. Abby, please. Abby, look at me. Abby, Abby, which is, if you, any situation you go into, you're going to hear a whole lot more of that than what I did. And the problem is it's a waste of time. All it does is make our jobs harder. And people say, well, I don't have time for what you just did. If you watch this tape, you're going to find it didn't take that long. Yeah. And now I've got somebody who's willing to participate in an active way versus somebody who's trying to figure out how to get away from me, which is a totally different place to be when you're starting an intimate task. So the very last one we'll do real quick here is, yes.
Where I found that was important was if I needed Rich to change his shoes, and I needed to touch him to give him a cue of what I needed to do. If I did that before I got connection, I'd get clobbered.
Absolutely.
That's how important that is. So
I mean, because they have strength, they have fear, and they see threat, and they are going to react to that threat because they truly believe you are there to hurt them. And when you remove or lift a balance point, which is a foot, then what you're saying is, I'm going to knock you off balance and I'm going to immobilize you so I can kill you. Now that's not what you thought you said, but that's what their brain took in. It's like, look, she's putting my foot in a trap and then she's going to stab me in the heart. And it's like, oh my God, I can't let her do that. And so they kick and they fight because they think truly you're planning to put your foot in a trap so that you can kill them.
Yeah.
And that's never our intent. All we want to do is put their foot up on a footrest. Mm-hmm. But if we don't bother to make the connection, how are they supposed to know what we're going to do? And my feet are my way of staying in contact with gravity and the world. And when you take it away from me, I think you're trying to do something dangerous and I'll react to it. And all you want to do is put a sock on. All you want to do is, whatever it is, doesn't matter what you want. You didn't communicate in a way I got your message. So good. Yeah. Okay, so let's try a pearl out. Now, Abby doesn't make the best pearl because she's not got, there you go. That's better. All right, now you got it. All right. Then, Hey. Yeah. Abby. Yeah. That was my favorite lady. Yeah, beautiful lady. There we go. So what do you got there?
That's a great pearl.
That, you're an adequate pearl, but we won't argue. What do you got, Tracy? What are you thinking?
The way that you went in and mimicked her tone and just kind of fell into her rhythm versus your agenda until she's, you know, comfortable there with you.
Where did I position my body? Could you tell where my body is?
I would say it was next to her, but you didn't automatically go real close. You waited until it was comfortable and then moved in a little closer.
Front to back.
I didn't even notice.
Who's more in front?
I'm going to go with you because you're in front right now.
And so when I did this, and Tracy, go ahead and mute yourself if you would. Thanks. When I did this, she saw clearly, look, a boundary marker. She can't come in my shell without permission. There's evidence here that she's safe. And even though I'm connecting, she can see me because I'm in her monocular field, but I am in no way coming into the shell in a way that looks like I could potentially get in there without her permission. So a lot of what I did, although my head was turned, my body was not. And only when we really got connected did I turn and give her pretty much a full connection. Because I had to know whether or not that shell was starting to open or whether that shell was going to slam shut when I got her to that place. So what we just did is go over each of the gem states with your positive personal communication connection there. And what I was trying to make sure everybody got was that it's not all about running your mouth. It's a lot about really pulling together that information.
Jess again. So what did you pull together? What did you notice about connecting with each gem state? And what are you going to try first?
So what we want to do here is with the positive action starters, you have 5 again. And so the 5 that you have, oh hush, that means it's 10, and I'm going to pause here. Your 5 positive action starters, get your hand out again. The first one, short, simple information. Short and simple. It's about time. Let's go this way. Keep it short and keep it simple. It's about time for breakfast. Keep it short. Breakfast. I went from it's about time for breakfast, 5 words, to breakfast. I could even make it simpler with eat. So short and simple. The shorter is for people who are further or have primary progressive aphasia. Ability to comprehend speech, more limited, shorter and shorter, more visuals. Do this. This or that. This or that. Choices. Would you rather go this way or that way? Would you rather have something hot or cold to drink? Not, are you thirsty? Would you rather start with something to eat or something to drink? So choices. You want to do your right foot or your left foot? I think I just did that wrong, but that's pretty typical. What can I say? But it's simple choices. And the people who like to be in control will love that. The people who want to connect are going to probably say, well, whatever you want to do is fine with me. Well, then you move to the 4th one, which is, how about we try this? Don't say, well, then, okay, we'll do this. How about we try this? Okay. The 3rd one, do this. Being all alone is a bad thing. So we're going to ask us to help. Could you point out, could you help me? And it's always a request of them, not let me help you, not the way we do it. So could you, will you, could you please, you can say, I need your help. Could you help me? I need help. And if you know that they like to be helpful, then you don't need to use as much emphasis. If there's somebody who's a little more of an introvert, you may have to put a little more energy into your ask. Now, the fourth one, do this. Now, this is the fourth, not the fifth. This is the fourth. The fourth one is a little different. It's, let's try something. Can we try something? Because do this. We aren't quite sure whether this is going to work. It is safer to try than to agree to do something that you can't for sure do. So the effort of, well, how about we try something? What I'm actually saying is, I don't know whether we'll be successful or not. So I say, it's about time to go to the ladies. I don't need to go. I hear you, but how about we just try? Because I don't know if I need to go either, but it's always so frustrating to get somewhere and then realize you have to go later. Mm-hmm. So how about we try is a very safe way to go somewhere, do something if you're not sure. And that's a real powerful one for diamonds who aren't clear and emeralds. Trying is great. You know, later on, how about we try? Can we just try? And if it doesn't work, we'll quit. We'll quit. We're not going to do it if it doesn't work. All right, fine. I appreciate it. I know you're not liking this. Acknowledge the feeling. And the very last one, do this. Baby steps, baby steps. You want the whole enchilada. Take your whole hands. I want you to do all this. No, start with a baby step. So pull your feet back. Lean forward. Mm-hmm. Here, may I? Yep, there you go. Look here. Good. Little tiny steps. Break it down into baby steps that are successful, and make sure each time you're going, yeah, that's it. Watch the voice, but that's how you get started. So when we come back next month and we're starting to work, make sure you practice these. So as we wrap up, we're going to try these. Abby's going to approach me. Yes, or do you want to go the other way? We'll let Abby try it out because she's more like what you guys might be trying out. I can make it look pretty simple. It can be a little more awkward. I'll be a gem. She'll approach. They'll be very quick, and they're your little quiz at the end. So we'll do one, get you to respond. Mandy, you want to take control over that part? So I'll quit sharing the screen so you can see us. There we go. All right, here we go. No. Got that? That's not very good. Yeah. Okay, so we'll pause. Abby got in a little trouble there, and the reason Abby got in a little trouble is she is a relatively newcomer. And Abby, what side is exposed? Dominant side. And what does that mean you are for me?
On your non-dominant side.
Why did you want to be there, did you say?
I was not in charge of your stuff as much. You were.
Okay, so let's try it again, and let's give Abby a chance to do the other. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's it. What do we got? What gem state? And what did she use?
Some are saying amber.
Uh-huh. Did I use any words? Did I use any fine motor?
Now we're saying ruby.
Oh, there you go. Good job. Because the main difference is ambers are more, they're going to be more focused in the hand thing. And I did this, if at all, and my eyes were, I wasn't sure what to do with the thing. And when Abby brought it up to her face, you'll notice my whole body moved up. And she better have had a good hold on me, because what I could have done is tipped backwards because I'm on the balls of my feet. So what technique did she use?
Say that again.
What technique of the 5, which one did she use? What'd you notice? She used my name?
Visual cues.
A lot of visual cues. Did she give me her name and use my name? Did she give me a compliment? Did she share something? Did she use that to look around and notice something? Or did she ask me about finding out about me? So
She shared a drink.
Yeah, she shared the drink thing. So once she made the connection that really happened for me, when did you see me totally connect to Abby? When did the connection actually happen? When she brought it to her mouth and was indicating what you would do with that thing. And that's when you saw me light up a little bit, and it was like, oh yeah, because I noticed something. She noticed it as well. She brought it into the picture rather than trying to make me not. And so it didn't matter what my name was, because I was really not focused on that. I was focused on the thing that I had found, and she shared it with me. She didn't try to take it away from me. Good work.
Erin said it made her happy to do something for you, so she asked for help without even asking anything.
Bingo. So now what do you think the very next thing Abby might do with me is? Yeah, we'll go get something to drink, and she'll get my cup, she'll have her cup, and I just got hydrated. Check. So that's how simple it is. We'll do one more, and then we'll wrap it up.
Teepa.
Yeah.
Teepa, hi.
Hey.
Hey, how are you? Nice.
What have you got all over you?
Oh my goodness, I know these are, but that is so something, huh?
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Well, I know
that's
it's not
just good.
Just something people put on them.
I don't know. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, I was wondering, would you like to go that way or that way?
I don't know. Where are we going?
Well, it's time to eat. Yeah, so we can go walk to the cafeteria.
Okay, so I'm going to pause, Abby, because Abby got anxious, didn't she? Come on, go with me. So she was so invested in moving on in her agenda because she didn't want to be with me where I was, because I made her uncomfortable. Because what did I notice? She has a tattoo on her wrist. I mean, she does have one. It's right there here. You can see it a little close. It's very noticeable. And she had bracelets. Sometimes we have things that people notice about it. It might be our color, our hair, it might be our size, and they make comments. Now, the most likely people to make comments on what they see are what gem state. And they will make comments that they're probably not supposed to make because they notice things. What you guys think? Emeralds, good. Holly, you got it. Yeah, emeralds say whatever comes into their mind that comes from their eyes. So when I made those comments, Abby's became uncomfortable because it was the kind of thing you shouldn't do with somebody when you first meet. I didn't make eye contact that much. I was all about that thing I saw on her wrist. So what happens is when we get uncomfortable, we want to pull away. And the person with dementia actually sort of figures that out. Because I got that you didn't really like what I was doing, rather than going, yeah, it's kind of interesting, huh? You don't have any of those, do you? So you can point at my wrist and go, you don't have any. And I could say whatever I'm going to say, and you can be okay with it. And you go, ooh, but I noticed you got some earrings. So in other words, I did body piercing. Now, it's the most common that women get is those ears like that. But this is where when you're very different than the person, you have to be prepared that they notice some differences. And again, with emeralds, not being offended, just try it out. So we'll see if Abby can change up here a little bit on a second try.
Oh, you better done after that. Teepa.
Hey.
Hey, good morning.
Hey.
Hey.
You've got all kinds of, you've got a thing.
You're sure right. Look at that.
Yeah, look
Got
at
different colors on there.
Not even English.
It's in Chinese.
Oh.
You ever learn Chinese?
Oh, no.
Know any
No,
Chinese?
that's hard.
It is
I
hard.
did Sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Oh, Dutch.
No, not Dutch.
You have to help me.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Not
Sprechen
good
Sie
with
Deutsch.
languages.
Ich kann ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen, but it's not Deutsch. It's
Is
the
it
other
French or German?
German.
German.
I
You
do
speak
German. Yeah, I do.
Yay.
No, just ein bisschen.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
No.
What are you?
I speak a little Spanish.
Oh, Spanish.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do that.
Oh, it's a little bit tricky to learn. I had a hard time.
Yeah.
You're very good.
Okay, now is Abby going to be more successful taking me somewhere? Get me to do something? And it's because she let go of the idea of being worried about me and just connected totally. Okay, so I'm open now for questions on your parts because that's where I wanted to go today. I wanted us to recognize it's easy to skip this part, but if you skip this part,
Other people out just stuck on the video.
you're not going to go where you want to go.
That is.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Viola, you may want to mute yourself.
and we can see where you're going.
Taking
We
us
aren't
on
sure
a
where
ride.
you're going. Okay, so any questions folks have? Do you want to ask any questions about this idea of personal connections and the value of them and how you do them without very many words? Anybody want to sort of speak up or ask a question? Or
How about when you have the resident, when you have an encounter and the resident is extremely agitated, like even when you leave, they still maintain being agitated?
okay, so give me verbally agitated or physically or both?
Both.
Okay, so what's happening is something in their world is not right, and they're trying to share that because something is really wrong, and they may even not know what it is or why it is. So when you tried to help, you didn't get where you wanted to go because it wasn't working for them. It just didn't go anywhere. Okay, so can you give me a little more detail to help me out? Can you give me like what kind of words, like what gem level do you think they're at?
I believe that she would be at an emerald.
Okay.
And very verbal, but she was fixated on a specific individual to the point that even when they removed themselves out the situation, she was extremely loud and verbal. I was trying to redirect and it just didn't seem.
Yeah.
Good.
So she didn't like that other person. And something that person said, did, or looked like got her all stirred up.
Correct.
Yeah. And when was it when she saw her or when she heard this other person or when this other person did something specific that it started?
Just when she saw the individual and it was a nurse. It doesn't make a difference if it's that specific nurse or an alternative nurse.
Okay. So when she sees an authority figure like a nurse, and this particular nurse, this nurse is a boss, and that's bullshit, and you're not doing, get her ass out of here. Get her out, I mean it. No, she doesn't come in here, and you don't do this shit. So what's happening is in her brain, as soon as she saw and experienced that visual, her left amygdala went wide open, and she felt threatened, she felt at risk, and actually endangered by that other person being around. And even when they were removed, now she's worried about where is she and what's she up to and when is she going to come back and what kind of bad stuff is she going to do, because she got so distressed. She was so distressed that she couldn't bring herself down at all. So I'm going to let Abby be pretty distressed and try to get into that. And I'm going to demo. And again, this will be what we do in depth. And if everybody could mute for a second, we're getting a lot of feedback from somewhere. Still not. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is have Abby do the distress, and I'm going to do it. But this is when we're doing the different gems, you'll really see us work on this. But I'll give you a quick recovery on it. Cover, because it's a distress mode. Go ahead.
That woman. Get out of here. You won't let me see it. You want her out. Come here and tell me what to do. She's not be telling you why she knows what to do. This is crazy. Terrible. She is a mean woman. She is mean. Terrible woman. Talk like that. That's right. See, I don't blame you. Yeah, that's right. She's She does. She comes in here and tells me what to do. She shouldn't be doing that. Right. She should not be bossed around. She should not be situated.
Now, Abby is burning up a lot of energy, and those people are using a lot of energy. And what I did is I got to the root of what's driving her distress, which is she's scared of this woman, and this woman is bossy. Now, she may or may not be individually either of those things, but to Abby, she is. And until she gets heard, she can't settle. Because in her mind, she's all alone, nobody's listening to her, and so she's getting louder and louder. And when you try to interact with her, if you try to calm rather than respond, what happens is her distress level continues to rise up because nobody else realizes but her how dangerous this woman is, how awful this woman is, how scary this woman is. And she can attack people and kill people and hurt people. And it's like, she's a nurse. She's not meaning to, but something triggered in her mind. And it's the closest I can give you in healthcare other than dementia is PTSD. It's actually almost a panic attack. It's such an extreme reaction that they literally are in full out fight, flight, fright mode. And unless I can meet them where they are and help bring them down, and notice my connection was mostly verbal because she didn't want a lot of visual connection. Notice I was on her preferred side and I dropped down into a support state and we both hit something. We both let out a lot of energy because with the emerald, she's going to need to let out that energy. If she doesn't get rid of it verbally or physically, she's going to hold on to it and it's going to be available the next interaction. I've got to let her release it so she can recharge her batteries. And what happened was by releasing it, she gradually came down a little bit. We're still not done, but we were done a lot faster and a lot more effectively than if I had tried anything else. And no big facial contact with her because any vast amount of eye contact is going to trigger her to think I'm attacking her, just like that lady does. Does that make sense, Viola? You can just give me a thumbs up if it does. Okay, cool. Anybody else have something they want to share out? Sashi?
Teepa?
Yes, ma'am.
What I noticed, is it typical, like with Rich, if he's about to do what she just did,
Sorry.
I see him fixating, like if it's a person,
Yep.
and he'll just stand and stare for just a couple of minutes.
Yep.
And if I don't distract him at that point, then that's when he gets to that.
If he feels so what you're saying, perfect, Pam, because exactly what you're saying, if I don't notice what he notices in the environment, that he thinks is not a positive, but instead a threat, and if I don't pick up on it and I'm the keeper of safe things, then he has to go after it because nobody else is paying attention to this potential threat. And by my noticing it and indicating, I got your message, you're worried about this, and deal with it prior to escalation, I'll have to deal with it after escalation. And they almost always give us a heads up if we're noticing what they're noticing. And that's that tricky part of watching what they watch. Notice what they seem to be touching and not going in with our agenda, but instead taking a real hard look at where are they and what are they noticing and what's their affect, because they have limited ability to hide what they're thinking, but they also have limited ability to tell us what they're thinking. So we've got to pick up on the cues and the clues that are left laying there that we can pick up on. And letting go of things takes a lot longer.
And I think the other thing I noticed is prior to that, his voice gets really low.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then he starts talking really quiet. It's like, hey,
well, that's
it's ready to come.
Okay, well, let's go to these two fingers because you have fright, flight, fight. And then I've added two more recently because I think people need to know them. Hide and then seek. Hide is for people when they're starting to be fearful of a threat, they'll hide. And the other group of people will seek out others like them or help because they're a seeker versus a hider. And so that may help people wrap their head around the behavior that comes after the fright, flight, trying to get away, fight, the other two behaviors that are very powerful and we don't recognize, but we all do, hide, which is lose eye contact, lose voice, get real still, and seek, which is try to find somebody to help you, try to find somebody like you, try to get away from the ugly and get to the good. So those two things can also help us appreciate what are they doing and why are they doing what they're doing.
The one last thing that has come up in a couple pieces is that you are getting angry together. So it goes back to the connection, the positive personal connection. You're getting angry, but you're not getting angry at the person. So you want to make sure that you're side by side, and body positioning and direction of face is really important. And like you said, you're not making a lot of facial contact at this point, but you faced away, you guys got angry, you got loud, not quite as loud as she was. So she was here and you were here, almost matching, because otherwise she can't hear you. And then once you were connected, once you both had hit the same thing and you had gotten some frustration out, then you were able to bring it down and she brought it down to match.
Okay.
So, but she was still just above you. So getting angry, but not getting angry at you.
So what's interesting is seekers will tend to share with us first. If they're seeking, they're going to share first, and I have to accept what they share. And once I accept what they share, then I can sort of renegotiate it. Hiders are going to want to be, we got to be real thoughtful because they hide what they're feeling and thinking. And I've got to be careful about digging too quick, because they're going to then push me away because they weren't seeking me, they were hiding. So that idea of, yeah, when you ask somebody, well, what's wrong? And you look up, and now that went from a hide, yeah, I do. A hider is more likely to avoid eye contact, and you've got to really share with them that you're not going to push something they don't want. And so that's, again, they're actually initiating the contact with a seeker. The hiders, you're trying to get in there. So just be real aware of your space and that getting permission. Okay. Well, it is about time for us to wrap all this up. What do you do? What do you suggest for people in care who constantly ask to go home? We're going to handle that one in the diamonds, the emeralds, and the ambers. And then we'll handle it again in the rubies and the pearls. Each one of those we do, the answer is different, because where they're talking about, when they're talking about, and what they're talking about is also different. Home is a place where I'm safe, I'm comfortable, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, I know who's supposed to be there. I'm either the boss or I have friends and family, but that changes as my gem state changes. So we're going to address that in depth when we talk about distress in each of those gem states, because all of us at some point in a day want to go home. And that doesn't change when I get dementia. What changes is my ability to find that place that's going to be my home. And it's frequently not where I find myself. And yet what I'm actually looking for will vary depending on each of the gem states. So we're going to come back to that, because that's really a core part of every single one of the distress series that we're going to do. Because you can't find joy till you deal with distress. And I won't deal with distress if you can't take me home in some form or fashion. So that's a key piece. So it's a great question, and I didn't even prompt it. So thanks, everybody. I hope today was good for you. We'll see you again next month. Some of you we may see on Monday if you choose to join us. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you want something different than what we're doing. Corey will send out some information, or we have the opportunity to get information back from you. We want it, because this really is for you. I know this stuff, and I'm happy to work with you, but the reason I'm doing this is not just to display my talents. It's because I'm hoping it's helping you grow your skills. So thanks, everyone, for spending time with us.
Hey, Jess again. So having effectively connected in our last chapter, in this chapter, we start to look at how are we going to get started? Could you help me? Let's try. This or that, or this or something else. Short and simple, or step by step. And plenty of extra information to consider. So, what's your takeaway from this last chapter? And what are you going to do with it? Hope you've enjoyed this webinar, Getting Connected, in our GEM series. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.